Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm here today with one of my favorite people on the planet, Morgan Adams, and we are going to talk all about sleep and how alcohol may or may not play a part in that sleep. So, Morgan, welcome. Welcome to Question the Drink Facebook group and beyond, because this will be on YouTube and some other channels. Thank you for being here with me.
Thank you. I'm super excited to chat with you today. This is going to be great.
Yes. It really, really, really is. And guys, for those that maybe you're new to Morgan, I'm going to have a little ticker down at the bottom. So I'll let you know Morgan is a holistic sleep coach who is also a former insomniac. And so she's going to talk about how that led her into becoming a sleep coach. And she's also a two-time survivor of breast cancer. So, my gosh, I'm so grateful that you're still here and that you're doing so well. And a lot of that has to do with your choice of eating clean, exercising on a regular basis. You're like the epitome of health when I think of you, Morgan. And again, thank you so much for being here. I cannot wait to dive in. Guys, make sure you follow her on IG. You can check out her website. It is down below. And I'll leave that running just for another minute while we dive in. So, Morgan, where do you want to start?
Yes. Oh, anywhere you want to start, my friend.
Okay. Let's, since this is in the Facebook group for Question the Drink, and of course we'll be going beyond, let's talk about how alcohol plays a part in someone's sleep, what it actually does and doesn't do. And if you're comfortable sharing your own relationship with alcohol and how that has evolved over the past few years since we've known each other, which is almost 4 years now, sharing, I think it is 4 years. It is 4 years.
I think time flies.
Sharing like how all that came to be. I would love that. And I think the audience would appreciate it too.
So alcohol is tricky with our sleep. And a lot of people, well, I'll just say that it is actually the most commonly used sleep aid. And it's because it helps you fall asleep a little faster. It basically sedates you and knocks you out. But there is a downside, and that is when you are sleeping, it's going to interfere with the quality of your sleep overall. It's going to essentially suppress the first two. I'm like, which way do I go? The two first REM cycles of your sleep. And you need those REM cycles for emotional regulation and memory consolidation. So you're skipping out on some really important sleep stages. And then what ends up happening later in the night, earlier into the morning, is you get these multiple awakenings. Some of them happen because you may need to urinate. What it does is it actually can jack up your cortisol, which causes awakenings. It's going to reduce your growth hormone secretion, which we need to repair our bodies. There's even evidence from some studies that it reduces our melatonin production. So they did this study where they looked at women's melatonin levels 2 hours after their last drink. And they found that there was lower levels of salutary melatonin in their system. And we need that melatonin to, get ready for sleep. We also have seen that having alcohol can increase sleep apnea episodes and snoring. I think we've all probably seen someone snore more when they've been drinking. It can also disrupt your circadian rhythm because it interferes with your brain's and liver's internal clocks. So there are a lot of things that go on behind the scenes when we're drinking that really disrupt our sleep. And what we do know is that the quantity actually can really impact our sleep quality. They actually did a study in 2018 where they looked at how much people were drinking. And so 2 drinks a day for men would decrease sleep quality by 24%. And that would be 1 serving for women. So that's a lot of sleep quality to be leaving on the table.
Can I interject something here? Because this is really an important piece, what you just said. So 2 drinks for men, 1 for women. By the way, that is the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism's recommendation. Well, not recommendation, but they're moderate drinking. If you fall under that, like 2 drinks per day for men, 1 for women, you're in the moderate category. And if you go over that, then you are abusing alcohol. So I just want to really point that out, that let's be honest. And by the way, a standard drink size matters. So it's 5 ounces for wine, 12 ounces for regular beer, 8 or 9 ounces for craft beer, and an ounce and a half of liquor. So if you're really being honest with yourself, I don't know about you, but when I was pouring a glass of wine, it was more like 9 or 10 ounces, which is really
Right.
2 drinks. And
Right.
there you go, you're over the limit. So just that
Right.
little bit of alcohol can drastically affect your sleep as well as other things. So thank you for letting me
Yes.
interrupt you. I
Yeah,
wanted to share that.
for sure. And then like when we get to higher amounts of alcohol, we see the sleep quality tank even more.
Mhm.
So they found that more than two for men and more than one for women reduces sleep quality by 39.2%. Again, that's just a lot. I mean, it's kind of common sense. The more you drink, the more it's going to impact, but it's a lot more than I think a lot of people realize.
And we're talking about the quality of sleep here, right? So I want to make
Yeah.
that difference because people are like, "Well, I passed out and I slept okay," but they were not actually maybe tracking it during that time as well. So we're talking about the quality of good REM sleep, deep sleep, therapeutic sleep, restorative sleep. That's what we're talking about here. Is that
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And then just generally speaking, the next day, you don't feel so great. You're not as sharp. You're just kind of blah most of the time.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, overall, it's probably not worth overindulging. If you really value your sleep and how you feel the next day, it's probably worth looking into as far
Yeah.
as your consumption, for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure. So, why are you comfortable sharing like where you are right now with your
Yes.
relationship with alcohol? Because I think this is really important. I mean, this
Yeah.
group is called Question the Drink. It's called that for a reason. It's not quit the drink. It is called Question the Drink. I want you to be, I want you to have agency over your decisions in your life. And this is one of those areas where people want to know, like, is it, am I able to still have a drink here and there? And listen, it's going to really, really depend on you. What Morgan's going to share about her own journey is her journey. My journey is my journey, and your journey is your journey. So you have to really be cognizant of how alcohol is affecting you in every way. And with that being said, Morgan, I'd love
Yeah.
for you to share.
Yeah, well, I'll kind of briefly give you the synopsis of the events of alcohol. So, starting in my late 30s, I really started to turn to alcohol for dealing with stressors and happy events. So, I was using it really as a way to kind of balance my emotions. And, you know, I would probably say 12 glasses of wine a week, which at the time I didn't think was really that much, because if divided into several days, like if it was 4 days a week and you're having 3 glasses and you're with people, it doesn't like seem that much. But when you really look at the numbers and like what heavy drinking is, I was like technically a heavy drinker, but I
Mhm.
would have never at the time, like, told myself that. So, as you mentioned earlier, I did get breast cancer when I was 48. And I do think that my alcohol use did play a role in that. Now, there are multiple reasons why I got breast cancer, but the fact that my cancer was estrogen receptor positive, and we know that alcohol raises your estrogen level, how could we not really think that alcohol use came into play with that? So it was at that point that I started really, questioning alcohol and like how did I possibly play a role in bringing this cancer to come about? And it was at that point that I really started to be conscious about reducing. And so, for the past 4 years, 5 years, yeah, 5 years, I've been on this journey of reducing, and I've done several like months or like dry January, and I think I've gone up to like 9 weeks without alcohol, and it's a great reset. And kind of where I have landed now is a very good spot for me. I'm probably drinking no more than like 4 drinks a month. So it's probably on average like 1 glass of wine a week. And I don't crave alcohol in the way that I used to. I don't rely on it to like soothe me or to celebrate. It's just sort of like I go out to dinner with my husband and we might have a glass of wine and I'm kind of done. I've like had my
Mhm.
glass of wine and I'm totally okay with it. So I think I have found my sweet spot. But like you said earlier, it's a really personal thing. Not everybody who is a gray area drinker can can moderate, sometimes people actually need to just completely be abstinent. So it just, it's a journey.
It is.
It took me like many, many years to get where I am now. Like it was a
really
long
has.
road.
Yes. And I've been watching you because we've had
Yes.
multiple conversations where, you've been very active in the group and then talking with me and then, kind of balancing what that looks like for you. And you found something that actually works. So, again, this group was created to really just question your relationship with alcohol, ask those tough questions. How is it working for me? How is it not working for me? How is it affecting my sleep? Maybe that's why you're watching right now, is because you're wondering, like, my sleep isn't all that great. And absolutely, alcohol will play a negative part if you're drinking too much and you're doing it on a regular basis. It absolutely will steal away from you that much needed restorative sleep that you so desperately need to rebuild. That's what happens when we sleep. We're rejuvenating ourselves, we're cleaning things out, we're in that really therapeutic stage for ourselves. And if we rob ourselves with alcohol, then you're not able to do that in the evening. So thank you so much for sharing
Yeah.
that. I really appreciate that. So I'm looking down at notes because I wrote down some questions I want to make sure that I ask you. So one of the biggest struggles that I hear, I know with my own clients that work with me one-on-one, is, oh my gosh, Kari, I'm so used to using wine or alcohol to chill out in the evening. It's the only way I know how to wind down. What am I going to do if I'm not drinking? How do I do that? How do I prepare myself for sleep? So what are some ways in which maybe the top 3 or 4 tips that you can provide that will help somebody when they are looking to
Yeah.
wind down at night?
I think even if you're a complete non-drinker or you've never drank, every single person really needs some kind of wind down activity or wind down routine. If you think about people who have children, toddlers, they have a nightly routine, a wind down
Yes.
routine, right?
Yes.
And I see so many, I have so many moms that are my clients who do this for their children, and yet they're not doing this for themselves. But we need it regardless of who we are, because we need that period of time to just de-accelerate, if that's even a word.
Yes.
So what I recommend for people who have a hard time kind of finding that moment to do it is set an alarm on your phone or your watch to let you know, like, it's time to start shutting things down. Now, I recommend an hour to my clients, but if you don't have an hour, at least 30 minutes is really what you should be thinking about. And within that time frame, you want to be focusing on activities that are going to be relaxing to you. And so what's relaxing to you is a very personal decision. But some of the things that my clients like to do would be like reading, journaling, meditating, breath work. Now, I will say TV is a wind down activity. It is actually what I do at night to wind down. And a lot of people are like shocked that I use TV as my wind down. But how you can do that is you can watch on a regular TV that's far away from you, not a laptop that's in your face. You can wear blue blocking glasses to block out that blue light. And I think first and foremost is watch your content. You want to look out for content that is overly stimulating and scary and provocative, and kind of block that, and just watch more lighthearted comedy, cooking shows or whatever that are not going to be overstimulating. So there is a way that you can actually watch TV at night without it being disruptive. We talk a lot about blue light, which is not great for us at night. But again, it's really about the stimulation. So I don't recommend that people get on their phone like during their wind down period and check social media and check emails and texts, because that's more of an interactive process. And that can be a little bit more stimulating. If you're going to have your phone with you, you should probably do things like being on a breath work or meditation app. That things that are more passive. So it's passive media versus active media.
Yeah, it's more input at that point versus output. And when we're getting ready for bed, we don't want so much input, because the last thing that we're doing before bed is staying with us overnight. It's actually going into your unconscious brain, and you're asking it to do something, whatever it is, the last thing that you're doing. And I 100% agree.
Exactly.
I just want to interject, if you're just joining us live, this is Morgan Adams. She's a holistic sleep coach for women, and we are talking about how alcohol and sleep work together or don't work together. And I'm Kari Schwear, an executive lifestyle coach. This is my channel. thank you for watching. We're so glad that you're here. So please continue, Morgan.
Yeah. So another way that we can wind down is we can have conversations with our family or our partner. But I will caution, this is not talked about nearly enough. You really want to stay away from topics that can get heated. A lot of times this is like finances for a lot of people, talking about bills that need to be paid. So if you have those kinds of topics that you feel like you need to address, I would table those for another time, but maybe just talk about lighter things. Another activity that I think can be really good and helpful for winding down is making a to-do list, having or a brain dump can be really helpful for people who start to kind of worry about the next day.
Yes.
And
Output.
yeah,
Again,
yeah,
output,
yeah,
getting it out,
yeah,
dumping it. I love that.
yeah. And then sort of a more advanced technique that I teach my clients is an exercise called the constructive worry exercise. This is for people who have a lot of rumination, perhaps when they're getting ready to go to bed, or if they wake up in the middle of the night, they start thinking about these things. So essentially what you do is you take a piece of paper, you divide it in half, and on the left-hand side column, you write worries and concerns, and on the right-hand side column, you write solutions. And you basically just write down a problem, and on the other side of the column, you write down the next step it takes to solve that problem. And if it's more of a nebulous problem, like if it's like a world event or something political, you can just write, we'll not be able to resolve now.
Mm-hmm.
We'll resume this later. So you basically just do that for about 15 or 20 minutes in the early evening, not too close to bed. And it's a really effective way to train your brain to get these things out on paper so that they don't start popping up in your head as you're getting ready
Yes.
to go to sleep.
Like, oh no, I forgot to do this. Yeah.
Yes.
Then you're like back in the
Yes.
rumination process for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that I recommend for my clients, and I think you'll approve of this, Morgan, is setting your intentions for the next day. So like
Yeah.
maybe it is, knowing what's coming up the next day and preparing for that and setting your intentions. So if it's a day that you're going to the gym, maybe you're setting out your clothes, you're preparing yourself, you're setting yourself up for success for the next day. So you don't have to worry about it. You got your water bottle filled, you have your gym clothes ready with your shoes out. Maybe you have your lunch packed for the day. If you're working outside the home, for example, you're setting yourself up for that success. So it's one less thing you have to worry about. We want to make habits as easy as we possibly can for ourselves, which will then in turn help you to fall asleep much better and faster and get that quality sleep that you so desperately need.
Yes. I love that suggestion. That's great.
I'm all about intentions.
Yes.
So here's a good one that I want to know. As a former insomniac,
Yeah.
that you had used plenty of things like sleeping pills. Let's talk about that. What are some myths that people are currently believing or using right now that maybe they should hit the pause button and consider something else? What are those kind of myths that you see out
Yeah.
there?
Well, a couple of the myths that I see are that everyone needs 8 hours of sleep, right? You hear this all the time. And since I'm a sleep coach, I get targeted a lot of ads and articles about sleep. They're like, you must get your 8 hours. And so here's the deal. The National Sleep Foundation has a general recommendation of 7 to 9 hours for adults 18 to 64. So 8 is sort of in the middle. That's how we get 8. But when you really look at their recommendations that they revised a few years ago and you read the fine print, you'll see that they say 6 to 10 hours may be appropriate for this adult population. So you have a little bit of latitude. I wouldn't recommend going under 6. I think 6 is actually a little bit too low, but there are a few people, I would say probably 1%, that are actually able to function okay on 6 hours. So they're kind of catering to that group. What we really need to understand is that we all have our own individual sleep need. And so I like to use this analogy like calories. So your amount of calories that you need, Kari, to get you through the day, to sustain you, are not going to be the same as a quarterback, right?
Yes.
So we all have our individual level of sleep that we need. And we really need to kind of figure out what that is for ourselves. I think most of us who are fairly intuitive kind of know how much sleep we need to feel rejuvenated and to get through our day without relying on crutches like caffeine, sugar, and things like that.
Yeah.
So that's a huge myth that I like to bust, because what it does is it actually creates a lot of undue pressure on a lot of people who don't need 8 hours of sleep. And so
Mhm.
they lie there stressing out like, oh my gosh, I didn't get my 8 hours. What's going to happen? Nothing's going to happen, you
Yeah.
know?
You know what's funny? I just have to interject this because I just got home from yet another trip. I've had so many trips this year, and I set my alarm for 4 a.m. because I had to leave the house by 4:30 to get to the airport. It's amazing to me how quickly we can get out of bed when we have something like a plane to catch versus a normal day, right? Isn't that just funny
Right.
to you? Like, I think
Oh
it's
yeah.
hilarious because I mean,
Yeah.
I bounced right out of bed like okay, 4 o'clock, I get up,
Yeah.
and
That'll
then
get you up quite quickly.
oh, no kidding. That or the dog or the cat, the throwing up sound that will also
Yeah.
get you out of bed
Oh,
really quickly
for sure. For sure.
for those that have
Yeah.
babies. Oh,
So
it's funny.
another myth that is kind of going around is that, and you mentioned the sleeping pills, is that sleeping
Yes.
pills are like a first line solution to sleeping problems.
Mm,
And quite often, if, I mean, in my case personally, when I had insomnia many years ago, I went to my doctor and I was prescribed Ambien. And at
mm,
the time, I took the pills because I thought, well, my doctor's recommending them. What else could I do? But what a lot of people don't understand is that sleeping pills were not designed to be used long term. If you look at the package insert on the bottle, you will
mm,
see that it says not meant for long term use.
mm.
2 to 3 weeks is the amount. So what primary care doctors will usually prescribe it, and unfortunately, they're not really providing the patient with an exit strategy, right?
Mhm.
And that's really unfortunate, because that way they're kind of using them as like birth control pills, like the PRN, month after month after month. And so I feel like, it's, I understand the doctor's predicament. The doctor is busy. They don't have time to give a lot of counseling to the patient. And they've only been given like 2 hours of sleep science education in medical school. So I really don't blame them. What they have not really understood is that CBTI, which is called cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, is actually the first line treatment, gold standard treatment over sleeping pills.
Mm.
And you can use, and that's a whole other thread that we could go down, but it's essentially a way of changing our behaviors and our thoughts and beliefs about sleep, so that we
Yeah.
are getting better sleep and we're not having to use medications to do it. And so I
Yes.
use I use these
Oh,
techniques with my clients to help
yes,
them
I
get
love
better
this.
sleep. And a
Mm,
lot of my clients are coming to me who are already on a prescription sleep aid, or maybe an over the counter like a Benadryl or a
mm,
Unisom,
mhm, mhm.
and they really need help building up their sleep confidence so that they can stop the pills. And the CBTI toolkit really gives you those tools to become more confident with your sleep
Oh my gosh,
confidence.
guys,
Yeah.
are you hearing this? Please listen to what she just said. There are ways that you can work on your sleep without using prescription medications. And this is the same, by the way, with the exit, not having an exit strategy with sleep. This is also the same with depression and anxiety. We give so much medication in the medical world. And I used to be in the medical field for quite some time, and I saw it all the time on people's charts. And it's like, my goodness, they've been on it for years. Same thing with sleep, like Ambien and other things, even over the counter melatonin and whatnot. There are ways like CBTI and holistic ways that you can control what you're believing about sleep. And a lot of the work that Morgan does with her clients is the same work that I do with my clients regarding alcohol. There are holistic ways to do this. And a lot of it has to do with what we're believing about the sleep, about the alcohol, about food, about things that we're doing that aren't good for us. When we can start to look at our thinking and we understand how we're feeling and we're tapping into that, we're able to make better choices, because this is another area where you do have a choice. Setting yourself up for success, doing things holistically to get to bed earlier, and having a nighttime routine for yourself. I heard actually recently Mel Robbins use the term uh, putting yourself to sleep, just like you would, like you mentioned, like a child.
Yeah.
We used to do this for our kids when they were little. Why aren't we doing it for ourselves? Why aren't we drawing a bath and relaxing and getting to a Zen zone that 30 minutes to an hour before bedtime? For me personally, what I do is I journal my gratitude for the day. I just want to go to bed. That's the last thing that I do. And I also read, because reading helps me really calm my mind. And I'm always reading something of value, something that's edifying, something that's good for my soul. And I think what we're doing is, if we're going to put anything in our minds before bedtime, let it be something that's going to be beneficial to you long run. Otherwise, you want to get it out, as we discussed.
Yes.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for sharing that about the myths. Is there anything else you wanted to share about that, Morgan?
I think that covered the myths, the main myths that I was going to share.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Is there anything that we have not covered that you're like, oh gosh, I wish we would have talked about that you think would be important for the viewer or the listener right now that maybe they haven't thought of yet? Is there any like gadgets or things that are out there that maybe they don't know about?
Well, there are a lot of gadgets, but what I really want to kind of leave things on is like 3 really actionable tips that are free that
Awesome.
anyone can implement to get better sleep. So the first one is having a consistent wake up time every morning.
Ooh.
And that means the weekends too, right? So our bodies are craving this consistency to keep our circadian rhythm really strong. So when you have that strong wake up time consistently every morning, what will end up happening is that you're going to start to become sleepy around the same time each night, which is going to make your bedtime more regular too. So, and they've actually, with women, they did a study that showed that having sleep and wake times that are beyond 90 minutes, when they had those sleep times, there was a higher body fat percentage versus women whose sleep wake consistency was 60 minutes or less. So it's really good for our bodies as well. So keeping that consistent wake up time, you may have to use an alarm clock at first to get that started. But after a while, you will start to probably wake up around the same time every morning without the alarm clock.
So awesome.
So second tip would be to get morning sunlight exposure as soon as you can after you wake up.
Yes, I love this. I just read another article on this.
Yes.
There's so much scientific data on this. Tell us why.
It's incredible. So getting out within an hour after you wake up. So you want to go outside for at least 10 minutes and you don't want to have your sunglasses on. I see so many people in my neighborhood every morning walking their dogs with their sunglasses on. And the reason why you don't want your sunglasses on is because when the light from the sun hits your eyes, it sends a signal to your suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is your circadian pacemaker. And that triggers this whole beautiful cascade of hormones and neurotransmitters. So it boosts your cortisol for extra energy boosts. It cuts off any residual melatonin from the night before. It increases your serotonin for better mood. And it also prepares your melatonin for the following night. So a lot of really beautiful things happen, but it takes some discipline and some effort to get yourself outside. But I'm telling you, it has helped me so much with my sleep and just the ability to kind of get tired at night. And with my clients, that is one of the main drivers that helps them with their sleep is when they have, I'll go back to the consistent wake up time as well. And that sunlight, it's really helping a lot of people get back on track with their sleep.
Awesome.
And then the third one is exercise. Again, when we are moving our bodies consistently, we are actually increasing our sleep drive. So when and we need that sleep drive to get sleepy at night. So it's really doing us a lot of benefit. And they did a recent study looking at midlife people and exercise, and they showed that the most helpful exercise for better sleep was moderate aerobic activity. Now, I like that because that means we don't have to go so hard. So they're not saying do 30 minutes of HIIT workouts a day. They're talking moderate, right? And for people who are actually looking for deeper sleep, they have about 13 studies put together in a meta-analysis showing that exercise helps with their deep sleep. And that even becomes more pronounced as we become older, midlife and beyond. So if you can get that exercise in, I would say at least 5 days a week for maybe 20 to 30 minutes, you are setting yourself up for better sleep quality, better sleep efficiency, more sleep time, and deeper sleep. So and again, that's free too. And what I also like to recommend is that you could perhaps in the morning do a habit stacking routine where you're doing your brisk walk right kind of as the sun is coming up. You're getting that sunlight and the movement at the same time as a great habit stacking activity.
Love it. Love it. And matter of fact, a new blog post, it came out Wednesday morning and it's all about habits. And we talk about habit stacking in there. So check it out. If you haven't, that's on graytonic.com/blogs. Morgan, you're amazing. I'm so glad that you're my friend because you're so smart and you bring so much value to me and my group. This is the second time I've had you on. It's been a hot minute, though. It's been several years since you've been on as a guest, and I'm glad to have you back. I don't think it's the last time either. I know I look forward to the next time with you. And again, guys, if you want to follow Morgan, please do on Instagram at morganadams.wellness. And again, on her website, which is morganadamswellness.com. And she works with women. Please reach out to her. And any final thing you want to share?
Well, I just want to say that, better sleep is within anyone's grasp. Like I said, there's so many free and accessible things we can do before we go down that sleeping pill route.
Yes. Please adhere to that, or the drinking route,
or
right?
The drinking route. Yes.
So pause on that nightly drink and take into heart some of the things that Morgan suggested. And I promise you, if you do that and you're staying diligent and you keep questioning the drink and questioning your sleep and questioning your exercise habits and questioning what food you're putting into your body, you will have a much better life. Keep on questioning, guys. Love you all. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.